You're the head of originals for Amazon Studios, Latin America, Canada, and Australia, overseeing local originals. That's a pretty big scope. How does managing such diverse regions shape your approach to content strategy? And what have you learned from one region that may have influenced how you work in another?
First of all, it's like a mouthful, right? And it's like, what do you do? How, for who, and what? And I think my approach is here at Amazon, we have these leadership principles that are across the entire company. It doesn't matter if you're at AWS, at the studio, at Prime Video, at Whole Foods, that they govern the culture of Amazon. And the number one is customer obsession. So I translate that into obsession for the local audience. So what is going to resonate with a Mexican audience? What's going to resonate with a Brazilian audience? What's going to resonate with an Australian audience? And I think that's what my team and I hyper focus on, right? So you've seen successes like for Australia with Jacob Elordi, the narrow road into the deep north about the Australian POWs during the Second World War. I'm here in Chile, 31 Minutes, A Very Hot Christmas, a film based on the series, a really famous series in the early aughts. We had this huge success with Mentiras in Mexico based on the stage play of like 15 years running. So I think what maybe has taught me is from each region is the hyper focus on local stories does not preclude a global audience. I think when you get the heart of great and good storytelling, it transcends. And what we need to find is what are those cultural touchstones that make it hugely successful? So Mentiras with the music, narrow road, Jacob Elordi, and a history that wasn't so well known. And 31 Minutos, a hugely successful television series that now it's going to be a film.
What was the thought process in doing this film? And
the thought process was exactly that audience obsession for Chile, right? And I think what I call like the butter, the cream of is the fact that the original series did have success in Brazil and Mexico. It traveled on Nickelodeon. And the fact that the creators have a theatrical show that they travel around the world with. So we knew there was a possibility of an audience outside of Chile because of these different points that we were seeing, right? That the series had traveled before. They do their theater show in Mexico and it sells out. They just had a huge anniversary where they did a whole museum tour, which also was very successful and extended in Mexico. And then I think the Tiny Desk, which was never part of the original Greenlight plan, it came to us in a moment that I think the world needed, right? Something fun, something wholesome, something just purely good. And I think that exploded. It was never an expectation, but it was always a hope. And I think we had the right points to show the possibility of the show.
you oversee the Spanish language projects from Latin America, but do you
Yes.
have any say in the studio's US Hispanic content strategy and reach?
Right. I work closely with the US team when they are looking at something that is going to either have Spanish language material, or there'll be like some people speaking Spanish in the series. We've worked closely with Amber Raspberry on the film studio with A Million Miles Away, for example. So there are opportunities where they consult our team to just make sure, casting questions, story issues, authenticity that will not only resonate with our US Hispanic audience, but also resonate outside, right, in Latin America.
Does the US Hispanic market influence which projects, which LATAM projects you pursue and how you develop them?
No, not necessarily, right? We're really looking at resonating within Latin America, right? Or within the countries that my team and I lead. I think naturally shows that we've done with Eugenio Derbez, like Traveling with the Derbez Family, De Viaje con los Derbez, is on VIX. So we partner with certain partners that we know are going to resonate, but we've had success with No One Will Miss Us, Nadie nos va a extrañar, which is a really small, beautiful show about high school in the 90s in Mexico. And we saw incredible engagement with the US Hispanic audience.
Are all LATAM originals globally released? And when they are, how do they perform outside their home markets? And what has that taught you about which stories travel best internationally?
It's taught me that marketing is everything. Positioning is super important. I'm not gonna lie. We're always, what does the local audience want and need? And that's what our main goal is, right? And when it resonates outside, if it's also incredibly helpful. And I think it's the great production values of our shows that we have, the heartfelt and transcendent storytelling. We can help. So I'm thinking like Mentiras, I'm thinking No One Will Miss Us. Even earlier, when we first started, La Jauría, which was a show out of Chile, also did incredibly well outside of Chile and traveled to the US market. And I think that was, crime thriller, young people. I think there are certain themes, certain audiences that really tend to help in traveling outside of their home country.
There are some really strong production companies in Latin America. And it seems like you've very consciously and very, successfully partnered with some of them so that it's not like you're coming from the outside to do projects in Latin America. Tell us a little bit about how do you select who you team up with in order to produce these Hollywood style quality projects that really can travel internationally?
Well, first, I appreciate that you're seeing that because that is like, this is what drives and makes my job so enjoyable, is kind of like showing the world the quality and the level of talent that is coming from Latin America. And, we are partnering with the best of the best in the region, from El Estudio in Mexico to Fabula here in Chile to KNS in Argentina. We work really closely with RCN in Colombia and O2 in Brazil. And it's not necessarily about their credits or their quality. I mean, I think that always helps because it's never easy to get a show greenlit and then to make that show. But it is really more about what is the story that they want to tell? What is the auspice that's coming into the pitch that is passionate about telling a story? That's what's gonna really resonate. And I think that's what's been successful about the program that we're running here at Amazon.
Well, funding is key, and the kind of production levels that we're seeing in some of these in these streaming productions has really elevated the product, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure that's going to be the case with your upcoming Casa de los Espíritus, House of the Spirit. So,
100%. Yeah.
what can you, can you shed light
Well,
on how the status of that project, what you're doing, what your expectations are? I mean, I'm looking forward to the
me
finished
too.
product.
I mean, I'm so excited. I can't tell you. It's been such a joy and such a pleasure to work with. And I think with the level of the popularity of the novel and treating it, it did budgetarily, it did get a lot of extra love. Film Nation came in, and we partnered with Fabula for production services here in Chile, and really kind of brought these these young women, Fernanda Regela and Francisca Alegría, as our showrunners. They had this beautiful pitch about how to bring this amazing novel to younger generations, right? How do we open up the storytelling so it doesn't feel like homework or, something that you had to read in high school, but something really entertaining and gorgeous. And then we made sure to partner with, the best production designers, the best ADs, giving them the room and the time that maybe you don't do on every show to meet the level of expectation that audiences have for that. So I think not every show is the same, but when you have this seminal piece of work, that's when we all have to step up and bring our A+ game and, give some more money to make sure that that's happening. And I think the opportunity to tell it as a series in Spanish, filmed in Chile, tells about the moment and the openness that we're all living. And I also think that's thanks to, and we could go ad nauseum about the pitfalls and the scariness of the internet, but I do think it has, and streaming has really brought an openness to show the world that audiences are more than happy to consume things that are not necessarily uh, created and developed and filmed in Hollywood.
What do you look for to move a pitch from, that's interesting, to we're doing this?
Oh, so much work. I wish I could say like, that was great. We're doing this. There's a lot. There is a great and long development process that where we write out the scripts, we figure out who are the right attachments, not just from who's going to be in front of the screen and who's directing, but who are the right heads of departments, who is going to be your production designer, who's going to be your photographer, our director of photography. Are we bringing all of the right team members to make this television series or film or reality program that is going to engage audiences and break out, because it's so competitive, right? There's so many different choices that anyone can make on a Friday night, not only from other television series or films to watch, but do you want to go to a concert? Are you going to game? Are you going to spend the night watching too much TikTok and then told to get off of it? I don't ever know that ever happening to anybody, but that might have happened to me a couple of times. But do you know what I mean? Like there's such a huge competition for time that the decisions that we make really have to be worth it, so that our audience is going to say, yeah, I'm going to sit down a night a week and spend my time watching this series on Prime Video.
So how much are you digging into what people are already watching? I mean, is it part of, I mean, do you tap onto the Prime Video algorithm to see, oh my gosh, there's these kind of peaks here or there. Maybe we need to do more unique content.
Totally,
What's the
totally.
formula?
I don't think there's a formula. There's a lot of work, right? And I think you're hitting at it. And it's like there is never it. You can never make it a binary conversation. It can never be like, oh, we've had the success with musicals, now we have to go make more musicals. That's not how it works. Or we've had this amazing success with true crime. Now we can only make true crime. No, that's not how it works. You have to find that balance of content and what is that new story that is going to break out. So it's a lot of data can tell you what happened and can give you some kernels of truth and vision to what's to come. But really, it's kind of like, I think it's like reading, watching other films, consuming culture that really drives and helps my team and I the decisions on what to move forward with.
What genres would you say right now are the best performing at this time? You're tackling huge markets, Mexico, Colombia, Chile, Argentina,
Yeah.
Brazil.
I mean,
So
we had huge success. Right now, we have a huge success with Tremembe, which is a true crime story out of Brazil, and it is about the prison that houses some of the most infamous criminals of Sao Paulo. I mean, it's like wildly successful, and we haven't had this level of hit in Brazil. And I think in what I've translated, that it's not really true crime, but it is what I call things that you can Google that are local stories. So I'm going to give an example also of the film that we have right now in Argentina, Belen, which is about a whole women's movement based on, bringing justice to a woman falsely accused of aborting. She miscarried and you spent language. And I think those kind of stories that people feel that are theirs and that they can learn more about is what's really breaking out for us at the moment.
How do you
Yeah, I think
navigate controversial topics, and how is that film in particular doing?
it feels like a controversial film because of maybe the movement it sparked, and that the movement then, uh, you know, got the right to choose in Argentina. But the film really is not that controversial, right? It is about justice and a young woman miscarrying and the lawyer who brought to light her case. Um, so many women, that could happen to anybody. Miscarrying happens so much more than something that we don't talk about. So I think that's what was so not controversial about making this film, really is bringing a story about justice and humanity to life.
Belen right now is Argentina's official submission for the Oscars.
Yes.
You also were in charge when another Argentinian film also made it and made
Yes.
it into the shortlist and made it as a nominee with
Yes.
Argentina 1985 or Argentina 1985. Both court related cases. They're different and yet
And yet the same, right?
same. Right,
Yeah.
right. What are your expectations, and what does this say about doing very powerful and significant? It's not just about only the entertainment value, but you're doing powerful storytelling.
Well, I am grateful for the freedom and opportunity at Amazon to tell these stories, that we're not afraid, and bringing it back to that kind of like obsession for the audience. And what was so amazing about Argentina in 1985 was a lot of young people in Argentina had no idea about the case as well, right? That their own government tried the military junta. And I think that was a really special moment and a reason why it drove us to tell the story. Um, and with Belen, it was kind of, I went to Buenos Aires in February 2020, met with Leti Cristi from KNS Films. She's one of the producers there. She took me to a huge gathering of like different women's movements, selling books, and there was a huge stage performance of La Tesis. Um, the song, remember, is like, I don't remember the name of the song, but it was this song that had gone really viral about the patriarchy, and just being in Plaza de Mayo, seeing the amount of women and men and just people there, it was kind of like, well, this is definitely a story that needs to be told, um, because it's engaging so many people at the moment. So I think that's what continues to drive, and I think that's what's resonated with the Argentine Academy and why we've been so fortunate to be selected.
What recent successes are you most proud of, and how is it shaping your 2026 slate?
Well, 2026 is done, cooked. I wish we were still shaping it, but it's done. So I think
Okay,
I think
how did it shape? How
yeah,
did it
yeah,
shape your?
I think what I'm really proud of, and it was funny because I got asked a question the other day, was like, oh, what show would you have wished to have done in 2025 that you didn't? And I was like, I think this is the first year I can honestly say I think we did the shows that I'm most proud of, and which is Mentiras from Mexico, Tremembe in Brazil, Belen and 31 Minutos here in Chile, and Betty in Colombia. So I feel like this is the first time I can't point to somebody else and be like, oh, darn, I wish I had done that show. And I think what what is confirming this year, and I hope what we'll see next year, is we need like continuing to double down on our local stories and to not be afraid. And I think what we have to not be afraid of is an original idea. I think a lot of talk is like surfacing on existing IP, and I think now it's really time to find what is that original story, like Nobody Will Miss Us, that is going to like break out and resonate with audiences.
About Betty, what attracted you to greenlight the project 20 years after the show had already, been
I
done?
think, I was just having this conversation this morning about nostalgia. I think nostalgia is a beautiful drug and can sometimes be a double-edged sword. So it has to be about great storytelling. And I think with Betty, the story continues. It's exactly that, what happens after a 20-year marriage, like, and an evolution of, and I think that's the centerpiece of what's driving the story. And then, everything, what happens with the business, you're, so much has changed, so much has happened. And I feel like that's so relatable to so many people. Um, and that's why we said yes.
What else is on your wish list?
More money always, more
Um,
marketing. I'm not
so
gonna, I don't shy about that. I'm screaming from the top of the hill. But it's always like, and then, finding that next, what is going to be our next House of Spirit. I'm so excited for audiences to enjoy that next year, and that we get an opportunity to take another work of seminal Latin American literature, right? We did it before with Noticia un Secuestro, and now Leveling Up with House of Spirit. So what's that next one that we want to chase?